The chemistry conundrum. More than just acting? The scene opens with a slow montage from Speed. Young Sandra Bullock grips the steering wheel. Keanu Reeves beside her, their eyes meeting for one brief electric second. Even after 30 years, that look still lives in millions of memories. The camera cuts between laughter, danger, and trust, the kind of chemistry you cannot rehearse. It feels real, raw, and unspoken. And from that moment, the world began to wonder, was it only acting or something more? The story begins here, on a movie set filled with noise, cables, and chaos. Two rising stars find themselves thrown together by fate. Sandra, the bright, witty woman whose laughter lights up every room. Keanu, the quiet soul with a kindness that doesn't need words. Their first scene together wasn't just scripted drama. It was an instant connection, visible even to those standing behind the camera. The director called it magic. The crew whispered that it looked like love. And when the film ended, the world didn't move on. Instead, it began asking questions that would follow both of them for decades. As the years passed, the rumors only grew stronger. Every time they shared a stage, a red carpet, or a gentle smile, people began to spin stories. Magazine headlines screamed of secret dinners, quiet confessions, and missed chances. Yet behind those flashing cameras were two people simply trying to stay true to something rare. A friendship built on trust, laughter, and mutual respect. What made this bond so different was how natural it felt. In an industry filled with egos and competition, Sandra and Keanu were different. They didn't chase fame, they didn't perform friendship for the world. They simply existed side by side, supporting each other's journeys. When one stumbled, the other was quietly there. When one succeeded, the other clapped the loudest. Their connection became a safe place, away from the noise of Hollywood. But to the world outside, it looked like the perfect romance waiting to happen. The fascination wasn't just about attraction, it was about timing. Both stars lived through heartbreaks, triumphs, and lonely nights under the same spotlight. Each time they met again, on talk shows, at award ceremonies, or during a rare reunion on screen, that same spark reignited. People could feel it. Even interviewers would pause, smiling awkwardly, sensing something too real to ignore. Their words were polite, but their eyes always told more than the script allowed. Still, neither Sandra nor Keanu ever confirmed anything beyond friendship. And maybe that mystery was what kept the world hooked. Because deep down, people didn't just see two actors. They saw something universal. Two humans who understood each other, who made kindness look powerful and connection look effortless. It reminded audiences of something they secretly craved. A relationship built on respect, not chaos. Love without the noise. There's a quiet moment in an old interview that fans still share today. Keanu looks down for a second before answering a question about Sandra. He says softly, "She's just someone you can trust with your silence." Sandra, in another show, smiles when asked about him. She says, "He's kind. Just kind, not to impress, just because that's who he is." Those answers say everything without saying anything. It's the kind of understanding that even words fail to describe. Their story, from the start, wasn't about gossip or headlines. It was about two souls who found peace in each other's presence. And while the world may never know what truly lies beneath their smiles, one truth stands unshaken. The bond they share has outlasted most Hollywood marriages. It's not about romance, it's about respect. And maybe that's what makes it even more beautiful. As the lights fade on part one, the question remains suspended like a whisper. Can chemistry be innocent? Or are we all just drawn to the mystery of something that feels too perfect to be only friendship? The friendship blueprint, a Hollywood anomaly. It all began long before the cameras rolled again. After Speed made them Hollywood's favorite pair, Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves quietly drifted into separate worlds. Different movies, different lives, different seasons. Yet somehow their friendship never disappeared. In an industry where friendships fade faster than movie credits, theirs only deepened with time. Hollywood rarely allows genuine bonds to breathe. It is a place where competition can mask connection, and where loyalty often bends under the weight of fame. But Sandra and Keanu were built differently. They never saw each other as rivals. Instead, they became quiet constants in each other's lives. When Sandra lost her father, Keanu sent flowers with no message attached. When Keanu went through one of the darkest periods of his life, Sandra showed up at his door with homemade cake and a warm hug. No publicity, no cameras, just care. People around them noticed something rare, a friendship that didn't ask for attention. They didn't post pictures together, they didn't need validation. Yet, every time they met, whether on a red carpet or at a charity gala, there was a glow that could not be faked. Their eyes met like two people who had walked through the same storms and learned to respect each other's silence. One of Sandra's friends once said in an interview, "They never needed to say much, they just understood." That was the blueprint of their bond: simplicity, sincerity, and space. They gave each other room to grow, to fall, to rise again. And that is something Hollywood rarely celebrates. Most friendships there are built on convenience, not care. But Sandra and Keanu had no hidden agendas, no unspoken expectations, only a shared respect that kept their connection pure. The industry began to notice. Actors, directors, and even journalists would often whisper about how they managed to stay close without letting rumors destroy their friendship. Because in Hollywood, such a balance was almost unheard of. Male and female friendships were often twisted by gossip, painted with desire or scandal. But Sandra and Keanu refused to let that noise define them. They quietly rewrote the rules. Their friendship became a small rebellion. Against drama, against ego, against everything that tries to break human connection in the spotlight. While others made headlines for feuds or affairs, these two made headlines for kindness. When Keanu spoke softly about Sandra in interviews, there was no exaggeration, no performance, just gratitude. When Sandra spoke of him, her words carried admiration that felt deeply rooted in truth. They both learned how to protect what mattered. For years, tabloids tried to find cracks in their story: dinner sightings, secret vacations, hidden gestures. But all they found were two friends who respected boundaries. And maybe that's what confused the world the most. Because in a place like Hollywood, people don't believe that a man and a woman can share a bond so deep without crossing lines. But Sandra and Keanu proved them wrong, again and again. Their connection was tested many times. Each new movie, each new relationship, brought a wave of new speculation. Still, they remained steady. They didn't deny or confirm anything. They just lived. And over time, their friendship became something bigger than just two stars getting along. It became a symbol of how genuine human connection can exist even under the heaviest spotlight. Some call it rare. Others call it impossible. But for Sandra and Keanu, it was just natural. When asked once about the secret of their long friendship, Sandra simply smiled and said, "We never tried to make it something else." That one line captured everything. Because the moment you try to label something so pure, you risk losing it. They had found a rhythm few could understand, built on laughter, silence, and quiet loyalty. They didn't owe the world an explanation. Maybe that's why the world could never stop asking questions. Their story didn't fit Hollywood's script of drama and betrayal. It was something softer, deeper, and more lasting. Their bond stood as proof that not every story needs romance to be meaningful. Sometimes friendship is the greater love story, one without confessions, without promises, but filled with understanding that runs deeper than words. And as their journey continued, the fascination surrounding them only grew louder. Fans began creating theories, videos, and even love edits, convinced that something romantic was hidden behind every smile and glance. And while Sandra and Keanu stayed quiet, the internet built its own version of their story, one that blurred the line between friendship and fantasy. What the world didn't realize was that their silence was not denial. It was protection of something sacred, something that couldn't survive under constant noise. Fan theories and the rumor mill. Why we want them together, it began as whispers in interviews and talk shows. But soon it grew into a storm that no one could control. After every public appearance, every shared laugh, and every soft exchange between Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves, the internet would ignite with speculation. Fans called it destiny. Tabloids called it love. But the truth, as always, was quieter, hidden behind friendship and mutual respect. Over the years, countless theories began to form. One popular rumor said they had secretly dated in the late 90s and ended it peacefully to protect their friendship. Another claimed they exchanged letters, handwritten and poetic, long before texting became normal. And then there were the stories about quiet dinners away from Hollywood lights, or how they always seemed to appear in each other's lives right when the other needed comfort. None of it was ever proven, yet people chose to believe it anyway, because deep down, everyone wanted it to be true. Social media only made the fire stronger. Fan pages dedicated to their relationship grew to millions of followers. Montages of their movie scenes and interviews were edited with romantic music. Every glance slowed down, every smile replayed until it felt like evidence. Comments poured in with hope and longing. "They're soulmates," one fan wrote. "If they're not together, love isn't real," another said. It became less about fact and more about fantasy. A love story people wanted to exist because it made them believe in something pure. But why were people so drawn to them? Why this pair, out of all Hollywood friendships? Maybe it was because their connection felt real in a world that often looks artificial. In an industry built on image, Sandra and Keanu seemed untouched by fame. Both had faced loss, heartbreak, and loneliness in silence. Both had chosen kindness over bitterness. Their friendship became a reflection of what people secretly desired. Love that doesn't need to be loud. Affection that doesn't fade when the cameras turn off. Psychologists often say that people project their own dreams onto celebrities. When they see two famous people with genuine chemistry, they imagine their own version of love in it. And that's what happened here. Fans turned their friendship into a mirror of their own hopes. They wanted to believe that somewhere in the chaos of fame and money, true love still existed. Steady, loyal, and humble. And Sandra and Keanu became the symbols of that hope. There were specific moments that kept the rumor mill alive. One night at an awards show, cameras caught Keanu whispering something to Sandra that made her blush and laugh. That clip alone generated millions of views online. Another time, Sandra admitted during a talk show that she liked Keanu back during the filming of Speed. Days later, Keanu revealed on a separate show that he had liked her too, but neither had known at the time. That small confession exploded across the internet. Fans screamed that it was fate. The timing had been their only enemy. Hashtags trended for days. "Just date already," fans wrote again and again. But amid all the noise, Sandra and Keanu stayed silent. Not defensive, not dismissive, just silent. They let people talk. They let rumors run wild, but they never corrected the narrative. Because maybe they understood something the world didn't. That explaining the truth would only make the mystery less beautiful. Keanu once said in an interview, "Sometimes silence is the most respectful answer." And that silence became part of their legacy. It allowed fans to keep dreaming, and it protected the truth of what they actually shared. Maybe they knew that the world needs stories like theirs. Stories that remind people of tenderness, not gossip. Still, the fascination had its price. Both of them faced questions again and again, even during moments meant to celebrate their work. Journalists would ignore movie questions to ask about each other. Headlines twisted every quote into proof. And while most would have grown frustrated, they never showed anger. They simply smiled, giving polite answers that revealed nothing yet said everything about their grace. Behind all the fascination was a simple truth. The public wanted to see love win. After years of seeing broken relationships, scandals, and betrayals, Sandra and Keanu's friendship felt like light in a cynical world. Fans weren't just rooting for them to be together, they were rooting for the idea of love surviving Hollywood. Over time, their bond became less about rumors and more about meaning. It wasn't just a celebrity story anymore. It became a reminder of how deeply people crave connection, honesty, and warmth in their own lives. Through their quiet friendship, Sandra and Keanu had unknowingly built something larger than themselves, a legend that lived in the hearts of millions. And so, the rumors kept spinning, not out of malice, but out of admiration. Fans didn't want to invade their privacy. They simply wanted to believe that two kind souls could find each other in a world that often feels cold. Navigating the scrutiny. Their public response, the more people talked, the quieter they became. Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves had learned something most celebrities never do. Silence can be its own language. When questions turned from art to rumors, from acting to assumptions, they didn't fight back or deny with anger. Instead, they smiled softly, as if to say that the truth belonged only to them. Years of scrutiny had made them experts in grace. Reporters asked the same questions in new ways, hoping for a headline that would explode across screens. "Is there something more between you two?" they'd ask, smiling as if it were harmless curiosity. But Keanu would just chuckle, tilt his head, and answer gently, "We're good friends." And Sandra would follow with a laugh, saying, "Yeah, he's someone you can trust completely." The audience would cheer, fans would melt, and once again, the mystery would grow instead of fade. Behind the camera, though, things were different. Being under constant speculation takes a toll, even on the strongest bonds. There were times when both of them hesitated to attend the same events, knowing how quickly photos would be misinterpreted. Yet, whenever one of them faced a personal loss or challenge, the other showed up, not for the world to see, but because friendship, real friendship, doesn't disappear in the face of gossip. Hollywood thrives on stories that can be sold, but theirs could not be bought, twisted, or rewritten. Over time, both learned to guard their connection with quiet discipline. Sandra once said in an interview, "The more people assume, the more I protect the people I care about." She didn't mention Keanu's name, but everyone knew who she meant. And when Keanu was asked years later about his closest friends, he simply smiled and said, "There are a few people I'd walk through fire for. She's one of them." That line became a sensation online, not because it confirmed romance, but because it revealed respect, the kind that rarely survives fame. For every rumor that appeared, they responded with kindness. When fans flooded comment sections begging them to confess their love, neither mocked nor scolded. Instead, they continued to show warmth toward each other in ways that felt effortless. A hand on the shoulder during an interview, a shared laugh at an award show, a quick hug that spoke volumes without saying a word. Sandra's calm was her shield. Keanu's silence was his armor. Together, they built a wall not of secrecy, but of serenity. The world saw mystery. They saw peace. What others called rumor, they called respect. They knew that to explain too much would take away what made their friendship special, its privacy, its purity, its quiet strength. But the scrutiny wasn't always gentle. There were magazine covers that boldly claimed "secret romance confirmed," or Keanu's confession to Sandra. Both ignored them, refusing to add fuel to the fire. Sometimes that silence angered people who wanted answers. Yet, with every rumor ignored, their dignity only grew stronger. It was as if they were teaching a quiet lesson, that not every connection needs to be defined, that not all love needs to fit into a headline. They both found their own ways to cope. Sandra buried herself in work, in motherhood, in the life she built away from the spotlight. Keanu poured his heart into art, motorcycles, and moments of stillness that gave him peace. But whenever they did cross paths again, their chemistry seemed untouched by time. No awkwardness, no hesitation, only familiarity and warmth, as though no years had passed at all. What kept their friendship alive through all the noise was the foundation they had built from the beginning: trust. It was unshakable, immune to gossip and headlines. Sandra once described him as a person with no agenda, and that's what made him different. Keanu never used her name for attention, never turned private memories into publicity, and she returned that respect, never allowing the media to turn his life into a spectacle. Through it all, they stayed true to something most people forget in Hollywood. You don't owe the world an explanation for the people you love and trust. The world may watch, may whisper, may assume, but the truth doesn't need validation to exist. In time, even journalists began to admire their maturity. What started as a rumor evolved into a quiet respect from the press. They realized these two weren't playing games. They were living proof that fame doesn't have to destroy something real. And in their calm, they taught others that privacy isn't secrecy, it's strength. Every friendship faces storms, but few survive decades of public curiosity. Theirs did. And perhaps that endurance, that quiet resilience, is what people truly fell in love with. It wasn't about romance anymore. It was about grace under pressure. It was about loyalty that doesn't need words. And though the world never stopped watching, Sandra and Keanu learned to walk through that noise with steady hearts, proving that true friendship can outlast rumor, fame, and even time itself. Enduring legacy, a friendship that transcends Hollywood norms. Time moved on, but the fascination never faded. The world kept changing. Movies came and went. Yet the story of Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves remained untouched. A quiet bond that seemed to outlive every headline, every rumor, every passing trend in Hollywood. While others chased fame and validation, they chose something simpler, something more lasting: loyalty. Years after Speed, they reunited on the Lake House, a romantic film that seemed almost too fitting. The movie's story was about two souls connected across time, communicating through letters, never meeting but still feeling bound by something invisible. It was impossible to separate the characters from their real selves. Every line, every glance, every pause felt layered with history. Fans didn't just watch a film. They watched an echo of real life, a reflection of what Sandra and Keanu had become to each other. It wasn't just acting. It was something deeper, built on years of quiet understanding. After the movie's release, interviews flooded in. Journalists asked the same question over and over. Was it strange working together again? Sandra would smile softly and say, "No, it felt like home." Keanu would nod, adding, "She makes everything better." Simple words, but they carried a weight that couldn't be faked. The audience could feel it. This wasn't performance, it was truth dressed in humility. In Hollywood, where most relationships are measured in months, theirs had lasted decades. That in itself was extraordinary. But what made it truly remarkable was how they had managed to keep it pure. No scandals, no betrayals, no bitterness, just kindness. They became symbols of what human connection could look like when stripped of ego and expectation. And in an age of constant noise, their quiet friendship became a rare melody. As time went on, their lives took different paths. Sandra focused on her children, stepping away from the chaos of Hollywood for long stretches. Keanu, too, began to live more privately, finding peace in his art and philanthropy. Yet, every once in a while, the universe would bring them together again, at an award show, a charity event, or even in a shared interview. And every time it happened, the internet lit up again. Fans would post old clips, make montages, and write comments like, "They still have that spark." It wasn't about gossip anymore. It was about nostalgia, about witnessing something real in a world where so much felt staged. Their legacy wasn't built through dramatic moments, but through consistency. In a place where people change masks with every project, they remained authentic. Sandra never spoke about him to gain sympathy or attention. Keanu never used her name to make headlines. They treated their friendship like something sacred, not to be displayed, not to be explained, only to be lived. Many actors and directors have described their dynamic as effortless. One director said, "When they're together, you can feel the room soften." That's the kind of energy that can't be created. It's earned through time, trust, and shared humanity. Even younger generations who never saw Speed still talk about them, sharing clips of interviews and calling them the purest bond in Hollywood. It's no longer about romance or rumors. It's about what they represent: respect, patience, and grace. They've shown that real friendship can exist without labels, without needing to fit into what the world expects. They've proven that connection isn't defined by confession but by consistency. Every act of kindness between them became a quiet lesson for everyone watching. It told the world that love, in any form, doesn't have to be loud to be meaningful. Even now, when both have aged gracefully and built their own private worlds, their bond continues to inspire. It's a reminder that true connections don't fade with time. They evolve. What began as on-screen chemistry turned into one of the most genuine off-screen friendships the industry has ever seen. And that is their legacy. Not the movies, not the awards, but the way they made people believe in lasting goodness. In Hollywood's long history of broken ties and forgotten promises, Sandra and Keanu's friendship stands as proof that authenticity still matters. That kindness is stronger than rumor. That loyalty is more powerful than fame. And maybe that's why their story continues to live on. Not because the world needs another love story, but because it needs a reminder that even in a world built on illusion, something real can still survive. Final reflection. What their bond teaches us about real connection as the years pass and the world grows louder. One truth about Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves remains unchanged. Theirs is not a story of romance, but of rare understanding. It's not built on public displays or confessions, but on quiet gestures that speak louder than words. And that, perhaps, is what makes their bond unforgettable. In Hollywood, where image often replaces identity, they stayed grounded in something simple: kindness. Every time people expected drama, they offered decency. Every time the world searched for proof of love, they showed proof of friendship. They reminded everyone watching that love doesn't always need to be romantic to be meaningful. Sometimes, the strongest connection is the one that never tries to define itself. As the story of their friendship continued to grow, so did its influence. Young actors entering the industry began to mention them in interviews, calling their relationship the blueprint of respect. It became an example of how two people could share history, trust, and admiration without letting the world tear it apart. And in a culture obsessed with breaking news, that quiet consistency became revolutionary. There's something deeply human about the way they've navigated life, both touched by loss, both shaped by humility, both unwilling to let fame change who they are. When Keanu faced years of personal tragedy, Sandra was there, not for attention but for comfort. When Sandra adopted her children and stepped away from fame, Keanu respected her choice completely. They never demanded presence, never took each other's silence as distance. Instead, they understood that real friendship survives through time, even when words aren't spoken. There's a photo fans often share online, the two of them laughing during a break from the lake house shoot. No posing, no performance, just laughter. That one frame says everything. Two people, standing in the middle of chaos, finding peace in each other's company. It's the kind of connection we all crave, and real, quiet, safe. Their bond became something larger than Hollywood. It became a lesson in how to live kindly in a noisy world. A reminder that connection is not about constant attention, but about steady loyalty. And that the best relationships, romantic or not, are those that ask for nothing but truth. When journalists today mention them, it's often with admiration, not curiosity. The tone has changed. The world now understands what fans always knew, that theirs is not a story to decode, but one to learn from. In an age where friendship often feels temporary, they have shown that respect and compassion can still last a lifetime. There's beauty in how they've aged too, not as icons trapped in fame, but as people who have grown wiser, softer, and more genuine with time. And whenever they cross paths, whether at a premiere or a quiet event, the same gentle warmth shines through. It's no longer about speculation. It's about legacy. A legacy of kindness that outshines every rumor. Some call it the greatest friendship in Hollywood history. Others call it the love story that never needed romance. Whatever people choose to name it, the truth remains simple. Two good hearts found each other and stayed that way. No drama, no noise, just quiet faith in something real. Their story teaches us that not every bond needs to end in confession or closure. Some connections exist to remind us what goodness looks like when the world forgets. Sandra and Keanu's friendship is that reminder, that in a world of changing trends and fragile loyalties, the rarest thing of all is someone who stays. And maybe, just maybe, that's why millions still talk about them. Not because of who they are, but because of what they represent. The hope that real connection, built on respect and empathy, can outlast time, fame, and even rumor. So as their story comes to rest, it leaves behind no scandal, no broken hearts, no grand declarations, only peace. The kind of peace that comes when two people understand that they don't need to prove anything to the world. Because the truth has always been theirs alone,